Hello and welcome, everyone. My name is Taylor Tomanka, and I run a legal blog called The Extra Blog, aptly named because I am anything but your ordinary attorney. I specialize in helping female creative entrepreneurs launch their business legally and help existing small creative businesses with their legal needs. I do this by providing easy to use legal templates on my blog, as well as provide affordable legal consulting services online. I also host weekly Wednesday night lives or Zooms with creative women in business to both highlight them as well as educate my audience about their line of work and what they should be looking out for during their first year in business. This week, I'm hosting Nicole Kauffman, owner of Franchising Smarter. Really quickly, a short bio on Nicole. She got involved in franchising 7 years ago when she realized that working a job in the corporate world was not fulfilling her dreams. So she started to explore the idea of business ownership. Still wanting the support structure of a proven business model, Nicole looked into franchises as a way to meet her desires to be an entrepreneur while still taking on less risk than a startup could offer. Her first franchise was in the automotive industry, where she was able to grow the business and get locally recognized as a top 40 under 40 influential woman of the year and young entrepreneur of the year awards. Always one to want to keep growing and developing, Nicole has now expanded to include additional franchise brands to her portfolio, including her newest venture as a multi-unit franchisee in the mental health industry. Hoping to help others do the same, Nicole offers up franchising consulting services to those who are interested in learning more about franchise ownership and how owning a franchise location can help them meet their personal and financial goals. Nicole and her family live on a small ranch on the Texas Gulf Coast. And without further ado, here's Nicole.
So I'm a franchise consulting agency whose main focus is to help educate people on what is involved in investing in the franchise system, how to find the right franchise for them, and what resources are available to help them get started in a franchise. I have been involved in the franchise industry for about 7 years now and currently own a few franchise locations myself. It is my hope to help others realize their entrepreneurial dreams through franchise business ownership. Today, we will be learning about why people go into business and the different paths they can follow. We will explore the franchise model in particular and the different structures that we see. Then we will discuss what a franchise disclosure document is and how it can help you explore what options may be the best fit for you. We will also touch on ways that you can fund your entrepreneurial dreams and discuss the Franchising Smarter Academy and your 4 steps to business ownership. People have started to reevaluate their lifestyles and where they're focusing their time. The pandemic created a shift in the workforce, commonly known as the Great Resignation. Many have started picturing themselves as business owners and what that may look like. People look at business ownership for a number of different reasons. The past years have shown us that the future really is unpredictable, and a large portion of the population want to have more control over their daily lives. Large layoffs left many searching for work and dipping into their savings. Work from home opportunities taught others that you can have flexibility in schedules. An increase in family time has a lot of us asking if the typical Monday to Friday, 8 to 5 grind is all it's cracked up to be. Others discovered that they need to diversify their portfolios and have a backup plan. And lastly, so many of us discovered skills and interests that we did not know that we had and are looking to pursue more fulfilling dreams. Whatever your reason for being here today, I'm hoping to offer some clarity on what a franchise is, questions you should ask yourself while exploring the brands, and how to prepare yourself for the process ahead. First, let's take a look at some of the different types of business ownership options that are available. There are 3 main routes: starting a business from scratch, buying an existing business, or investing in a franchise. In respect of our time today, we will only be exploring some of the benefits and drawbacks of a franchise business. When many of us think of franchises, the most common brands that come to mind are typically those in the fast food industry. Although food services does make up a large portion of the 4,000 franchise brands in the United States, they really only equate to about 20% of the different models that are available. There are actually about 90 different categories that we find franchising in, representing industries in everything from child education, home services, restoration, senior care, health and beauty, technology, and much more. This is great news for those looking to get involved in a franchise brand as there is a model for almost every skill set and interest. We are even seeing franchise models emerging in the laboratory, medical tool sales and repairs, mental health, and green energy industries. Just like with other business types, franchises do come with their own list of advantages and disadvantages. Some of the advantages can include the brand recognition prior to opening day. Franchises will typically run a large marketing campaign prior to opening to help grow the hype around the brand coming to the area. Licensed trademarks help to reduce brand confusion with other businesses in the area. Almost all franchises will have mandatory training to attend prior to starting up business. This training is continuous, more intense in the first few months, but usually includes annual refresher courses to ensure that franchisees are up to date with best practices and technology. Proven business models and systems, which also make these businesses more attractive for funding. There are even special funding programs available to pre-approved franchise models. There's also a lower rate of failure than what we can see in startups. The overall cost of the setup can be much lower over the long term. The franchisor has already made the costly mistakes in figuring out systems, creating the training protocols and operations manuals, creating the pooled marketing resources, and so on, that even though the initial cost with the franchise fees and royalties may be higher, these costs can actually be lower in the long run. And there is also full disclosure that is required and regulated from the Federal Trade Commission. You will also gain a franchise family where everyone celebrates each other's successes, offers support and tips, and provides people to lean on when needed. Now, of course, there are some disadvantages as well. These can include restrictions on the product or services that are provided. They may also limit supplier resources. You must follow their proven operating system that has been provided. There are the ongoing royalty fees, and some franchises have territory restrictions, uniforms, vehicle specifications, or brick and mortar build-outs. But what is the franchise? Plainly put, a franchise is a complex, interdependent agreement in which one party, the franchisee, pays certain fees to the franchisor in return for a proven business model, branding, proprietary rights, training and support, among other things. Franchise businesses tend to have higher rates of success than startups due to their marketing, technology, and teams of people working together to drive business. Many celebrities have taken notice of the benefits of the systems and have become multi-unit owners themselves. Brands typically decide to franchise as a way of expanding their businesses without taking on a lot of the risk themselves. Instead of taking on the expense of creating build-outs and hiring management staff, they choose to offer up their business plan and systems for like-minded people to invest in, known as a franchise offering. This type of business allows for quicker market expansion and brand identity growth than could be achieved as a single entity. When a business first decides to franchise, they become known as an emerging brand. Emerging brands tend to have a higher level of risk, but new brands tend to allow more input from their franchisees, boast lower fees, offer larger territories, and have availability in the area you are hoping to open. With this can come some growing pains, especially if the franchise grows too much, too fast, and need frequent technology or policy changes to keep up. With this growth, though, comes brand recognition, and franchisees have the opportunity to grow with the brand as it matures. As mature franchise models grow and develop and more locations open, they become known as established brands. Established brands tend to be more rigid in their policies, typically not taking individual franchisee input. They come with higher brand recognition, so a customer base and therefore revenue can be seen on or sometimes even before opening day. With the increase in the number of locations comes an increase in revenue, so established brands can offer a larger marketing fund, more experienced head office staff, and cutting-edge technology. This comes at a cost, however, as established brands are sold out in a number of markets and tend to have higher investment levels. That being said, there may be a resale opportunity available in your area. When determining whether you want to explore an emerging or established franchise, you need to think about your level of risk. Risk and return are directly related to each other, even in the franchise model. Determining how risk tolerant you are will help answer the question of whether you should be leaving the corporate world as an employee or staying with what's familiar. Franchises inherently have a lower risk than a startup business because someone else, the franchisor, has already made these costly mistakes. As we will talk about in the following slides, the age and structure of the franchise can help feed into the risk-reward model, but asking yourself how much you're willing to invest plays a huge role. The next thing that you need to consider when looking at a franchise business is your target market. B2B or business-to-business franchises focus on servicing other businesses. They focus on building relationships within a niche market and tend to involve more levels of decision makers. These types of models tend to have fewer larger sales, like to focus on accomplishing goals, and are more logic-centered businesses. B2C or business-to-consumer franchises focus on selling to the end user or an individual. These sales and the franchisees tend to want rapid and immediate results. Business is built through building brand awareness across the market and focusing on a larger scale clientele. These sales cycles are shorter and are largely emotion-based. Within these two markets, there are 5 different engagement models. Most business owners will tell you that they run more of a hybrid business model, taking elements from the different types of ownerships available. For example, if looking into a model that is semi-absentee, it is important to speak with the franchisor to ensure that their idea of semi-absentee is in line with yours, and you know the level of engagement that will be expected of you. Many franchise models will end up evolving over time. At initial startup, you may take on more of an owner-operator role, growing a client base and adding staff as you become established, possibly pulling back into more of an executive or semi-absentee position as the business grows and the franchise allows. Here, it is important to ask yourself how involved in the day-to-day you want to be now, down the road, and how many hours per week you're willing to invest. There is not really any true passive business models out there, as every business is going to require at least some level of engagement from the owner, even if it is just to review a profit and loss statement at the end of each month. When exploring semi-passive business models, it is important to take into consideration your investment level. Semi-passive models tend to have higher investment requirements, as they usually require a brick and mortar location and a manager to run the day-to-day operations of the business. One way to grow your personal franchise portfolio is to agree to open multiple locations. Many franchisors will offer discounts if you invest in more than one location at the time of signing. A single unit is as it sounds. You invest in and agree to develop one franchise unit. Some franchises, especially those without a defined territory, will only sell as a single unit, as they can still be scaled. However, most will allow for multi-unit investment, with the development of these locations to be laid out on an agreed upon timeline. Multi-units are where franchisees sign on to open 2 or more units within a given time frame, usually with a discounted franchise fee. There are, of course, pros and cons to multi-unit deals. The franchise fee for all units usually needs to be paid up front, so more liquidity is required. However, as franchise locations open and are running, the combined revenue can help support an increased personal income. Other benefits, such as resource sharing, can be used if distance allows, and you are not relying on the performance of a single location. An area developer is another type of multi-unit franchise. Some franchisors use these terms interchangeably. Area developers typically get a defined area in which they will develop an agreed upon number of franchise locations within a set time frame. A master franchisee, on the other hand, is more like a mini franchisor within a particular territory. They typically own and operate at least one location within a territory and then find individual franchisees to run the other locations within the area. They have their own agreements with their franchisees, which is different than that with the franchisor, and they collect a royalty from the franchise locations within their defined area. Please note that not all franchisors offer these models. There are pros and cons to master franchise agreements. Master franchises, since they operate as a mini franchisor, are able to collect royalties from the franchisees that sign up under them. This helps to lead to a greater chance of the master franchisor to be able to build greater wealth and provides a unique financial leverage for future expansion. More of the risk of the business is taken on by the individual franchisee instead of the master franchisee, so these models can be scaled quickly if properly managed. However, if not properly managed, the system will not work. Failure for the master franchisee to build their business will result in the development collapsing. Although there are rare circumstances available in some larger franchise systems, for the most part, mature franchises tend to have sold out of master territories. So we mostly see these units in newer brands, which can make them harder to validate. They also tend not to be financeable using SBA loans, so other funding options need to be explored. Now, this slide may seem odd to think about before you've even started investigating different franchise models, but it is an important question to ask. What is your exit strategy? Are you looking to build a legacy for your children? Are you looking for a business that you can scale back your involvement as you age? Do you want to bring it to passive ownership so you can continue to draw income while working fewer hours? Are you looking to eventually sell the business to use for your retirement? Are you looking for something more short-term where you grow the business quickly and sell, or long-term where equity grows over time? Do not be afraid to talk about this with the franchisor. If they know your goals at the beginning, they can help determine if this is the right model for you and help you to achieve these goals. Identifying your transferable skills can help narrow down the search even further. You know that job you had in high school where you served ice cream, or your more recent position where you oversaw million-dollar projects and managed over 100 staff? Even coaching your child's soccer team helps to build skills that can be transferable to a franchise. All of those help develop skills, and you can now use them to run your business. Don't know how to read a profit and loss statement and have no idea how to develop a marketing strategy? That's good too. Identifying your strengths as well as the areas where you need assistance can help to align you with a franchise brand that offers more support in the areas where you need it and is more hands-off in the areas where you have lots of experience. And remember, when looking at businesses, that you are not necessarily the one who is doing the work. You are working on the business and not in the business. Just because you don't want to clean a restroom does not mean that the cleaning industry is not for you. You will be hiring the staff to do that work. It is important to separate your function as the business owner from the function of the actual business. Think about what your transferable skills are that can be applied to the business, such as leadership, sales, networking, organization. Make a list and then work to find business models where you can leverage these strengths, but have support in the areas where you do need some assistance. It is important to go into your business search knowing what your level of investment is. You do not want to get into a business that is going to stretch you beyond your personal means to cover off on expenses like paying your mortgage and bills. However, you do need one that can grow to meet your income expectations. It is well known that most businesses that fail do so because they simply do not have sufficient capital means. There are many factors that come into play with the cost of business. Brick and mortar locations can greatly increase startup costs if locations require expensive build-outs. However, they give visibility to your brand and can help secure funding. We've already discussed the pricing differences between emerging and established brands, but some business models may require special licenses to perform certain services, and that can vary state by state. Staffing requirements and initial and ongoing inventory can be more variable startup costs as well. Just a little fun franchising fact. Over 85% of the existing franchise brands have an investment level of less than $250,000, and 20% have an initial investment of less than $100,000. Now, you may be sitting there right now thinking to yourself, but that still is more than what I have to invest. And don't worry, there are funding programs available out there. And it is good to know what funding is available for the different business models that we come across. The rollover for business startup, or ROBS, allows you to invest your retirement savings in your own business without tax penalties. And many franchises qualify for the Express SBA loan, which only requires around a 15% down payment to go towards a business investment of up to $150,000. If we use $150,000 as an example, your cash investment could be around only $22,500. I work with a number of funding companies who specialize in securing funding for franchise development, and they can work with you to develop a plan that leverages your existing assets as well as the most up-to-date government programs available. Other financing sources can also include outside investors such as family and friends, home equity lines of credit in your non-homestead states, or seller financing in the case of resales, or some franchisors may even offer in-house financing as well. Please do not hesitate to reach out if you are interested in learning more on how to secure funding for your franchise business. Fear is a natural part of the process when looking at making any large decision. It is important when looking into business ownership in general that you are able to manage and reduce your fear. One of the most important steps that people tend to breeze through is doing due diligence. Due diligence is key to determine if your fears are justified or unwarranted. It is an information gathering process that will ensure that you are making a fact-based decision and not simply judging due to fear or emotion. Some of the main concerns that I come across include things like the risk being too high. A job is safer than a business, but also won't grow equity or legacy. Ask yourself, how safe is your job really? I'll wait until the economy is better. Well, the economy always has and always will ebb and flow. Many industries, which we watched closely during the pandemic, actually ended up growing substantially. Your concerns may have to do with the cost being too high, and you should ensure that you have enough savings to support your lifestyle until the business is able to support you. Ask yourself, what do you really need in order to live, and what you can do without for a little while the business is becoming established. You may also worry that your knowledge is just not high enough in the particular area. The franchisor will provide initial and ongoing training on the business and its systems. Most franchisors want you to work on the business and not in the business, and you hire staff who know how to do the day-to-day tasks while you work on the growth. When I opened my automotive franchise, I barely knew much more than where to put the fuel and how to change a tire. I hired on mechanics and technicians that did the actual installations, and I focused on client acquisition and satisfaction. I still can't install a lift kit, and that's perfect because it allows me to focus on what I do best. Along with that goes your skills. There is a certain mindset and talent that is required to run a business, but the actual skills can be developed. Again, I refer back to my first franchise. I learned so much about business in my first few years. It was education under pressure, but I loved every minute of it, and I still do. As I previously mentioned, due diligence is a step a lot of potential franchisees try and quickly get through. However, I feel it is one of the most important stages of looking into a franchise. One of the benefits and how regulated the franchise industry is that franchisors are required to develop a document called a franchise disclosure document, commonly referred to as an FDD. This is a legal document that was first introduced in California in 1979 to protect potential franchisees from scam franchises. There had been an increase in franchise offerings that potential franchisees paid their initial fees for, but never got open because the franchisor simply disappeared. This document is typically around 200 pages and must be updated annually. It is regulated by the FTC and required in 15 states. After receiving the document, a franchisor must provide a minimum of 14 days to act as a cooling off period to provide time to review the document and do any other due diligence that should be explored. It contains 23 items plus appendices and usually also has a copy of the franchise agreement for potential franchisees to review. The document covers a lot of questions that the franchisees will have on the business, including what the total investment is expected to be, including franchise fees, working capital, initial inventory, equipment, insurance, marketing, the list goes on. It also provides a background on the franchise business, its founders, other employees of note, registered trademarks, expectations of both the franchisee and the franchisor, and much more. Many franchisors will also include some earnings of select open locations as well. It is recommended to have a lawyer who is familiar with franchise law review this document. Another key part of doing due diligence is to speak with franchisees that are open and operating. The franchisor will provide you with contact information for existing franchisees, and you can ask them for some specific requirements. So for example, some who have been open recently versus more established locations, franchisees with similar backgrounds to yours, locations with similar demographics to your proposed territory, and so on. Having some prepared questions will help to ensure that you are making the best use of everyone's time and that you get your questions answered. I have resources which can help you get better prepared for when you start speaking with existing franchisees, and I do run workshops as well. Another way to reduce your risk is to look into the businesses that are in the industries that are more resistant to economic change. When evaluating a specific franchise model, look at the industry as a whole. How have similar businesses fared during a recession? How did they fare during the COVID shutdowns? How are other locations of that same franchise doing? And how are the businesses in your specific area doing? Remember, when you ask yourself that last question, that not all competition is bad. Have you ever noticed that when a large fast food franchise opens in an area, all of a sudden 3 more pop up? That's because they've done the market research and determined that there's a great need in that area. They all manage to be successful. That same thing happens with fitness centers, where you'll have a grouping of boutique gyms clustered together. Or with the home service companies, where you'll all of a sudden see different brands offering seemingly the same services open in a single area. Competition is almost market evaluation. It confirms that there is demand for the product or service. Check out the competition during your due diligence and see what people are saying and the health of that business. My main competitor in the auto franchise and I got along really well. We would discuss fair pricing on new products in that marketplace, and each agreed to have a few unique products that we left for the other's business. This ensured that we were both able to run successful businesses and not worry about the other person undercutting. One of the biggest hesitations that people have to franchises are the initial franchise fees and ongoing royalties. The truth is, the franchisor is actually losing money on these, in the beginning at least. The franchise fees helps to cover off on the increase in staffing costs to help a new franchisee get established. New franchisees require a higher level of attention, whether that comes from training, systems questions, or equipment setup, or more. The franchise fee is to help the franchisor recover some of these costs. Since most royalties are done as a percentage of sales, you will also be paying a lower monthly amount until your revenue increases. As you grow, you require less support, but pay a greater monthly royalty since sales have increased. Royalties act as more of a payoff, where you are exchanging some profits in the long term for a reduction in risk in the short term. As previously mentioned, in most models, you will be working on the business and not in the business. So it is important to look at all aspects of your role while exploring the options that are available. I encourage clients to learn about more than just one franchise, and to even explore different industries so that they are able to compare and contrast the models. Making notes on what you like and don't like for each model is an important step in narrowing down your options. It is also a good idea to think long-term with each model and compare them to what your short and long-term goals are. Will this business model help you achieve those goals? Would a different business model be better? What if you stayed in your current role? Would that help you to achieve these goals? Also think about the economy. The pandemic shook the world, but franchises were able to see growth where they weren't even expecting it. More seniors are choosing to stay in their homes, increasing demand on in-home senior care. Many people added a furry friend to their household, increasing demand in pet services and supplies. Health and wellness came to the forefront of everyone's mind. Food services are able to adapt. Business-to-business services grew to help others with challenges in staffing and cost reduction. Successful franchise owners are passionate about achieving their goals and look at their business as a means of getting there. Franchisors have spent a lot of time and money developing proven systems to be successful. They are looking for business partners in the form of franchisees that will follow their established systems, have a focus on building their business, and fit their culture. As you narrow down which franchises you want to learn more about, you will likely get invited to what is called a discovery day, or sometimes also referred to as a meet the team day. This is typically an in-person meeting where you will fly out to the franchisor's head office and meet the training and support staff, founders, and have a tour of the head office facilities. You typically will also get to tour one or more operating locations and have a chance to see the operations in action. These meetings help to give you a good idea on corporate culture and will give both the franchisor and potential franchisee the opportunity to ensure that their values align. This helps to protect their existing franchisees as well, since all franchisees work together to represent the brand. Certified franchise consultants such as myself and Franchising Smarter can help you customize your search to focus on businesses that will meet your goals and maximize your transferable skills. They ask a series of questions that explore everything from your investment amount and level of risk to who your ideal customer is, how many locations you would like to own, and which industry you were drawn to. The consultant will work to develop a profile to include your short and long-term business and personal skills and introduce you to franchises that can help you achieve these, but still fall within your desired investment level. If you would like to learn more about franchises in general or are ready to take that next step and start building your own profile, I encourage you to reach out and book a meeting. I follow a 4-step process, which I use to guide you through the steps and help mentor you along the way. In addition, I have a number of resources that I can share at each step, including webinars and workshops, handouts, and franchise spotlights, where we will discuss different brands. I also work with a number of different partners from lawyers to funding companies and can help the exploration process of investigating the different models go smoother. As a certified franchise consultant with the International Franchise Professional Groups, I follow a code of ethics to ensure that you are receiving the information that you need in order to make an informed decision. Consultants work with similar to real estate agents and insurance brokers, where our services are paid for by the franchisor if a placement is made, and these fees in no way can be forwarded on to you, meaning that you will receive my industry knowledge and guidance at no cost. I thank you all for your time today, and I hope that you found it informative, and please let me know if you have any questions.
Awesome. Thank you, Nicole. Do you have time for just 1 or 2 questions from me?
Yeah.
Awesome. So I know your story, but will you tell everybody how you got your start in the franchising industry? What was your first business and what made you like fall in love with it?
Yeah, absolutely. So my husband and I, we first started to explore different franchise options that were out there back in 2014, at one of those point in times where the economy was not doing so well. We knew that we needed to get into something to take care for ourselves and take after ourselves. And we came across this automotive aftermarket accessory store that was up for sale. And we packed up all of our things and we moved to a new city and opened up our own location. My husband actually ended up getting a really good job offer. And so I was left in charge of the store. And it was a lot of fun. I learned so much in those first few months that we were in business. And it was definitely in a male dominated industry, but we got to prove that females can definitely get involved in the automotive industry and thrive in it.
I love that. Girl power.
Yes, absolutely. We still do currently own a couple of other franchises as well. My husband has since got into a franchise himself in business consulting, and we are soon to be opening up a multi-unit franchise in the mental health industry.
Very cool. Wow. You're so amazing. So what was one of the biggest obstacles that you had to overcome in, say, like the first few months of owning your franchise?
Yeah, so as previously mentioned, I didn't have any experience at all in the automotive industry. I also had never owned a business before. I didn't have an accounting background. So it was the biggest obstacle is just that super steep learning curve going into it. So I had to learn all about vehicle parts. I had to learn how to read a profit and loss sheet. But the best thing about that was that the franchisor was behind me the whole time. They were there to answer the phone and answer all of my questions that I had. They even ended up flying somebody out there to teach me how to read profit and loss statements, how to read cash flow statements. So they gave me like a full education.
Wow, that's amazing because that's obviously so applicable to so many different businesses.
Absolutely.
That's so cool. So did you have any like internal fears or anything that you had to like overcome yourself, or were you just charging in there like I'm the boss and I know what I'm doing?
I had the same fears that everybody else does about leaving that security of that Monday to Friday 9 to 5 job. When you get reliant on that paycheck that's coming in every single month, and then all of a sudden you don't have that can be scary. But it paid off at the end. At the very beginning, the hours were of course a little bit longer, but then once once things were running along smoothly, it was nice, on like a Wednesday afternoon, if it was a nice day, that I could just be like, all right, you guys are in charge. But yeah, absolutely the same fears that everybody is going to go through when they're going through this entire process. But you're not alone out there. As they like to say in the franchising world, that you're going into business for yourself, but you're never by yourself.
Oh, that's cute. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
One last question. If you had any advice for someone that has never started a franchise, what is the best piece of advice you could give them?
The same piece of advice that I wish that I would have been given when we were first exploring our first franchise is honestly work with a franchise consultant. They don't cost you anything. But you're going to be getting their full knowledge of experience. So for example, I work with 600 different franchises, that I'm going to be able to narrow that list down for somebody who's interested in learning about these businesses. And you don't necessarily actually know about a franchise that's out there and available that you could be a really good fit for. Plus, then they're going to help walk you through all of the stages as well. So they're going to get you prepared for meetings with the franchisor. They're going to help you prepare questions when you're speaking with existing franchisees. They're going to get you prepared to go to that discovery day where you're going to be meeting like the founders and the CEOs of the company, and they can introduce you to funding partners and franchise lawyers that can help make sure that you're getting through all of your due diligence, that you're being introduced to some of the funding opportunities that are available out there, so that you don't have to take all of that burden on yourself.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I didn't even know about all of the funding opportunities out there for like that you had mentioned. So, I mean, I learned something new today too. Awesome. Well, thank you again, Nicole. And like she said, if you would like to ask her any questions, her information is here on the slide. So please give her an email or a phone call. She is wonderful and can definitely help find your right fit for your franchise. Okay.
Thank you so much, Taylor, and everybody for coming out tonight and watching us.
Thanks. And this will also be reposted. So goodbye to all of the ladies watching later. And Nicole, I will talk to you later.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.